This was the harrowing 9/11 moments after Nitekka Lennear was brutally gunned down by her ex-girlfriend's new lover in a shocking act of violence. After their breakup, Nitekka and Ania Thomas had gone their separate ways, appearing to move on. But then a Facebook post set everything off. Fueled by emotions, Nitekka decided to confront Ania in person. She went live on Facebook during the interaction, not knowing that she would be broadcasting her own murder. So, what really happened that day? How did things spiral into such a devastating tragedy? Let's break down the shocking details of this case. On the evening of September 2nd, 2020, just after 6 p.m., police in Cocoa, Florida, received frantic calls about a shooting at an apartment complex on North Fisk Boulevard. The first officer on the scene was met with a horrifying sight: a young woman lying on the ground, riddled with gunshot wounds. Her chest, back, neck, forearm, and side all bore the evidence of the brutal attack. She was rushed to the hospital as doctors fought desperately to save her life. But it was too late. She was pronounced dead shortly after. The investigation began immediately as detectives worked to unravel the mystery of what had happened. The victim was identified as 27-year-old Nitekka Lennear. But what made this case even more chilling was the revelation that she had live-streamed her own murder. While little is known about Nitekka's life, those close to her described her as a kind and humble woman who could get along with anyone. She was especially close to her family, including her brother O.J. Ross, a standout high school football star who went on to play for Tennessee Tech and Long Island University.
She was a funny human being. A good person to be around. She cared, she loved.
Wasn't nothing he wouldn't do for her and nothing she wouldn't do for him.
The bond with OJ and Nitekka was very, very close.
Sometime in 2019, Nitekka entered a relationship with 19-year-old Ania Thomas. While details are sparse, their relationship seemed dangerously toxic, marred by reports of domestic violence. Ania was also battling deep mental health struggles after giving birth. A chilling incident from May 28, 2019, gives a glimpse into her troubled state. According to a report by T.C. Palm, Indian River County deputies were alerted to a disturbing post on Ania's Facebook, where she reportedly threatened to harm herself and her infant. Brevard County Police tracked her phone to a Walmart parking lot in Vero Beach. Inside her car, officers found Ania in the driver's seat holding her baby, face down on her chest. The arrest report described a horrifying scene. Ania then wrapped her right arm around the back of the infant's head and her left arm around the infant's torso in a hugging position. Ania began squeezing, appearing to suffocate the child. When verbal commands failed, a deputy shattered the driver's side window and rescued the baby. Ania was arrested, charged with felony child abuse and resisting arrest without violence. Thankfully, the infant was unharmed and placed in the care of relatives. It's unclear if Nitekka was in the picture when this happened or if they met later, but it paints a dark picture of Ania's mental state. Their tumultuous relationship lasted about a year before ending in July 2020 after another domestic violence incident. Afterward, it seemed both women were trying to move on. Each started dating new people, but the situation took an unsettling turn when Ania began dating 19-year-old Nitekka Bird, who, in a twisted coincidence, was cousins with Nitekka's new girlfriend. As you might imagine, this did not sit well with Nitekka. On the evening of September 2nd, 2020, Nitekka and her girlfriend went to confront Ania about some Facebook posts and a status update. But what started as a confrontation would spiral into something far more sinister. According to the police, Nitekka went live on Facebook as she and her girlfriend drove to Ania's apartment. While the 8-minute video hasn't been made public, police revealed chilling details about what it captured. It began with Nitekka and her girlfriend heading to confront Ania and her new partner. Then the video showed Nitekka's girlfriend and Ania fighting at the top of the stairs, then ended abruptly with the sound of gunshots and Nitekka collapsing to the ground before the screen went black. Nitekka's girlfriend later told police that when they arrived at the apartment, things quickly escalated. She admitted to hitting Ania during the altercation at the top of the stairs. Nitekka, meanwhile, had moved to the bottom of the stairs, seemingly to leave. But that's when Ania screamed at her girlfriend, Nitekka Bird, yelling, "Shoot her, bae! Shoot her!" Without hesitation, Nitekka fired 9 shots, striking Nitekka in the chest, back, neck, arm, and side. As Nitekka lay on the ground, Ania and Nitekka fled the scene.
At the Candlewood Apartments Tuesday night, Police say the victim and her girlfriend came here to confront Bird and Thomas about their issues with one another. Police say the couples were fighting about things posted on Facebook, and when the victim and her girlfriend showed up, they live-streamed the fight and the gunfire.
The shocking murder triggered an immediate manhunt, with police offering a $5,000 reward for any information leading to their capture. And it wasn't long before both women were arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
Girlfriends in jail, possibly for the rest of their lives.
Someone just got killed. They literally saw him like 20 times and he...
It was 9 times. Cocoa police say 19-year-old Laniqua Bird, 27-year-old Nitekka Lennear. Police say Bird's girlfriend, 21-year-old Anaya Thomas, told her to shoot the victim, who happens to be Thomas's ex-girlfriend. Shoot her, bae. Shoot her. Thomas orders Bird, according to the report.
During questioning, Ania initially denied knowing what had happened, claiming she was busy fighting Nitekka's girlfriend. But when confronted with the damning video evidence, she admitted it was her voice urging Lennear to pull the trigger. Both women pleaded not guilty to the charges and were denied bail. During the hearing, the judge made no effort to hide his disgust, making it clear just how heinous he considered their actions.
Ma'am, you're here for the charge of a second-degree murder with discharge of a firearm, felony punishable by life, and I'm gonna hold you no bond. Don't call her from the jail.
While Bird and Thomas might be in jail at the same time, the girlfriends are not allowed to be together.
While you're in custody together, you are not to have contact and discuss this case through letters, knocking on the pipes, or anything. You're not to discuss this case and not to have contact with each other.
Meanwhile, Nitekka's tragic death left her family and friends shocked and heartbroken. Her brother later described the moment he received the devastating news.
I was having a good day. Had good practice. After practice, one of my teammates, Cedric Hawkins, he had called me. He said my sister had got shot. At first I was in shock. I didn't really believe it until he told me the exact place that she got shot at.
The family rushed to the hospital where their fears were confirmed.
We all was at the hospital. We just sitting there hoping she was fine, hoping she was fine. And my mom went in, she came out, and I just seen it. I just seen it on her face. I seen it on her face. I just knew something was up.
That day, it was very hard for him, very hard, to where I had to just grab him and say some things to him and make sure he got it through his head.
For OJ, losing his sister wasn't just painful, it became a source of motivation.
It's motivating me. I'm going harder because I know this is what she wants. She wants me to go harder. She always talk about football. She want me to be the best, so I'm gonna go harder.
As of January 2025, the case has seen no major updates. Ania and Lennear remain in jail, awaiting their fates. But as tragic as this case is, it is sadly not unique. This next woman did the unthinkable when her secret girlfriend left her for a man. Linnell Barsock was a 29-year-old nurse from Palmdale, California. She was hardworking and ambitious and had dreams of opening her own care facility for the elderly. She'd even started making those dreams a reality by buying a 6-bedroom house, which she planned to turn into a care center. But tragically, her life would be brutally cut short before she got a chance to see it through. In 2010, Linnell's relationship with her boyfriend, Louis Bonheur, was falling apart. They'd been together for years, but things had taken a toxic turn. Linnell had shared with a friend that Louis's jealousy and controlling behavior were getting worse. He was constantly keeping tabs on her, tracking her movements, following her to work, and even checking her phone calls. At one point, Linnell started seeing a guy named Ike. When Louis found out, it led to a heated argument, but they didn't break up. Instead, they decided to try and fix their relationship. Despite that, Louis continued keeping a close eye on her phone. Then, on the evening of June 16, 2010, everything took a tragic turn. Around 7 p.m., Laureen Austin, one of Linnell's friends, walked into the Palmdale police station with devastating news. She had found Linnell dead in her garage.
And then I turned around. It was like plastic bags, and I slid on the bags. I'm looking at the blood, and then when I looked, I saw her legs. And then when I walked around the car, she had a bag over her head, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God.
When officers arrived at the house on Rocky Lane, they discovered Lennear lying on her back next to the passenger side of her BMW. A plastic bag covered her head, and stained towels, plastic sheeting, and bedding surrounded her. The trunk of the BMW was open, revealing soiled bedding and a pillow with a bullet hole, but the murder weapon was nowhere to be found. It was clear that the murder had not taken place in the garage. Using luminol testing, detectives discovered a bloody trail that started in the living room, wound through the kitchen, and ended in the garage. It was clear someone had dragged Lennear's body across the floor, trying to stage the scene. Back in the living room, they found a few red spatters on the wall and a single bullet casing on the couch. The carpet was unusually clean, so clean it seemed freshly scrubbed, and something else stood out. A large area rug was missing. That missing rug turned up shoved into the back seat of Lennear's car. It was soaked in red and bore a distinct shoe print. Piece by piece, investigators started putting the story together. They figured out that Lennear was attacked while sitting in the living room. She'd been shot in the back of the head, likely never even seeing it coming, but something about the scene didn't make sense. The car in the garage, where her body was found, had items packed inside, almost like someone had planned to move her body, but stopped halfway through. Why would the killer abandon their plan? Could Lorene, Lennear's friend, have shown up and interrupted them? As investigators worked through these questions, Lorene's version of events made things even more confusing. She told police she'd been at Lennear's house earlier that day, helping her with her hair in the living room. Everything seemed normal until Lennear's boyfriend, Louis Bonheur, suddenly showed up. Lauren said Louis was furious about a recent fight they'd had after finding out Lennear had a secret phone. The fight got so heated that Lauren decided to leave, thinking it was better to give them space to calm down. But later that evening when she came back, she found Lennear's body in the garage. Panicking, Lauren said she tried to call 911, but then she heard a noise coming from inside the house. She claimed that's when she saw Louis, and in total fear, she ran straight to the police station to report the crime.
And then I heard somebody walking upstairs. And he was like coming down the stairs, and I looked in, I just ran out the door.
Do you know the guy's name?
Yeah, his name is Louis.
Lauren's story seemed believable, and for a while, everyone was convinced that Lennear's boyfriend, Louis, was the one behind it all. He already had a reputation for being jealous and controlling, so it wasn't a stretch to think he could have done something like this. Lennear's mother, Bobby, told investigators that the couple argued all the time. She even recalled a chilling incident where Louis had reportedly chased Lennear in his car, trying to run her off the road.
She called me on the phone. She said, Louis tried to run me off the road, Mama. And she was screaming.
This, along with Lorene's claims, kept Louis as the main suspect. Investigators didn't waste time tracking him down, eventually finding him at Bobby's house in Hawthorne. When they brought him in for questioning, Louis's reaction was odd. He seemed calm, almost confused about why he was even a suspect. But the more he talked, the more suspicious things started to sound. Louis insisted everything between him and Lennear was perfect. He said they were happy and in love, which didn't match the reports of constant fighting and his controlling behavior.
Was your girlfriend then? In the bus. What happened to her? How you wouldn't know? You don't know? I leave the house early to go fix my car. Tell me about your relationship. Right? Yeah. Your relationship is good? Honest with you. Okay with her. Is she okay with you? She's okay with me. She's been telling me she's loving me all the time.
Then detectives noticed a scratch on his face. When they asked about it, Louis admitted Lennear had scratched him during an argument. Even so, he swore up and down that he had nothing to do with her death.
You got a scratch on your face. Where did you get that?
This one?
Yeah, the one right across your cheek. Who scratched you?
Oh, that was Lennear across me.
At first, Louis seemed like the obvious suspect. The investigators even thought they had a motive. A letter found at the scene, supposedly written by Lennear, claimed she was leaving Louis for another man. On the surface, it felt like an open and shut case. But when they started digging into Louis's alibi, things took a surprising turn. Louis told investigators he wasn't anywhere near Lennear's house when she was killed. He said he'd spent the whole day running errands in Los Angeles, which is over an hour away from Palmdale. Naturally, the detectives weren't about to just take his word for it. They checked out his story, and to their surprise, everything checked out perfectly. He had receipts for car parts he bought that afternoon, and the timestamps matched the timeline. To double-check, investigators pulled security footage from the stores, and there Louis was, calmly going about his business. On top of that, his cell phone records backed him up too. The data showed his phone pinging along the highway to and from Los Angeles, nowhere near Palmdale when Lennear was killed. There was also no evidence tying him to anyone else who would have carried out the crime for him. With all the solid proof clearing Lewis, detectives officially ruled him out as a suspect. They didn't stop there though. Investigators also looked into other potential suspects, including Eek, who had briefly dated Lennear. But just like Louis, his alibi checked out, leaving the detectives back at square one. That's when they started taking a closer look at Lorene Austin, and her story didn't seem to hold up. For one, Lorene claimed to be a close high school friend of Lennear, but Bobby, Lennear's mom, didn't recognize her at all. In fact, Bobby later said she felt uneasy when Lorene tried to hug her at the police station. Something about her just felt off.
The detective and this person walked out of the hallway. And the first thing I asked, I said, "How do you know Lennear?" And she said, we went to Crenshaw together. I said, "Crenshaw?" I said, "I don't know you." And she hugged me, and she said, "You have my condolences." I told the detective, I said, "I don't know her."
Then, there was the issue with the bullets. During Lorene's initial interview, officers checked her purse as part of protocol and found 2 bullets inside. When asked about it, Lorene gave a strange explanation. She claimed she'd picked them up near the crime scene and had just forgotten to mention it.
I told you that there were 2 bullets in your purse.
2?
2.
I don't know how there's 2.
Detectives couldn't ignore how odd this all was, and the more they looked into Lorene's account, the more suspicious things got. Her timeline didn't make sense. She said she saw Lewis at the house before and after the murder, but with Lewis's airtight alibi, there was no way he could have been there at either time. Piece by piece, Lauren's story started to crumble, but suspicions alone weren't enough. They needed hard evidence to connect her to the crime. That's when they decided to dig deeper into the physical evidence from the scene, and what they uncovered changed everything. DNA testing revealed that the latex gloves discarded in the garage belonged to Lorene. The bloody shoe print on the rug was a perfect match for her shoes. And the fingerprint found on the kitchen pitcher, that was hers too. But the biggest revelation came from the handwritten letter found at the scene, the one supposedly written by Lennear to Louis. Handwriting experts determined it wasn't written by Lennear at all. Lorene had forged it in an attempt to frame Louis for the murder. Now, the pieces were falling into place. All the evidence pointed straight to Lorene, and as detectives dug deeper, a chilling story of jealousy and obsession started to emerge.
Did you kill your friend?
I did not kill my friend. I had no reason to kill my friend. I love my friend.
Detectives decided to dig into Lorene's life, and at first glance, she seemed like just an ordinary hairdresser trying to make ends meet, but it didn't take long for them to uncover the truth. Lorene was drowning in debt, living rent-free at her mom's house, and barely scraping by with occasional hairdressing gigs she advertised on Craigslist. It was through one of those Craigslist ads that she met Lennear just weeks before her death. Their connection started as a friendship, but quickly turned romantic. But the problem was, while Lorene was falling hard for Lennear, the feelings weren't mutual. Lennear liked her company, but wasn't interested in anything serious. In fact, just days before her murder, Lennear texted Lorene to let her know she wanted to work things out with her boyfriend, Lewis. She even suggested they stay friends and asked if Lorene would still help her with her hair. Detectives believed this rejection, paired with jealousy and resentment toward Lennear's life, pushed Lorene over the edge. Based on the evidence, they pieced together what they think happened. While doing Lennear's hair in the living room, Lorene pulled a gun from her handbag, and using a pillowcase as a makeshift silencer, she shot Lennear from behind while she was sitting, completely unaware of what was about to happen. It seemed like Lorene's initial plan was to clean up the crime and hide Lennear's body. The desert landscape around Palmdale offered plenty of remote spots for this, but after dragging Lennear's body and some items to the garage, it's likely Lorene realized she didn't have the strength to lift her into the car. That's when her plan shifted, and she decided to frame Louis instead. And for a while, it almost worked. By the time investigators got the evidence they needed and were ready to make an arrest, Lorene had already fled, to Belize, in Central American country. Her whereabouts were a mystery until she was featured on America's Most Wanted. Thanks to tips from viewers, detectives tracked her down and arrested her. She was extradited back to the U.S., where she pleaded not guilty to the charges. However, the jury convicted of first-degree murder, and in 2015, she was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for at least 50 years. What do you think about what these women did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you thought this story was wild, just wait. We've got something even more jaw-dropping coming up next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're always the first to know when we drop a new video.